Hello and welcome. We had a great presentation. Thank you for the introduction, Maria. And what I'm going to go over today is the general hiring process. And I'm going to include a lot of details. So if this is something that you can relate to, you can feel free to copy this and use this process in your own hiring decisions. This is the process that I use for hiring for smaller size startups. And you can see on my screen, I have a circle of different things that you're going to want to do in the hiring process. So to go ahead and to start off, we are going to create a job description. And I would strongly recommend that everybody do this when you're looking to hire a new position, even if you don't end up posting this job description online, which I would also recommend. But it will help you give an idea of what specifically you're looking for, and it will help continue to make sure that you're looking for people that fit what you need in your company. So you're going to create the job description. We'll go over a little bit more detail on what you need to do for creating that job description. Next, you're going to reach out to candidates via LinkedIn. And you can do Boolean searches through the LinkedIn recruiter. And I'll go over in more detail on how you can actually do those searches, not the searches themselves, but how you can reach out to candidates and find candidates that you really fit the job that you're looking for. Third, you're going to respond to candidates. So you're going to start reaching out to candidates, and then you're going to respond to candidates whom you've already reached out to who are interested in your position. You're going to want to start by doing an initial screen. Your initial screen, you're really looking for somebody that fits the basic requirements of the position. And you're going to do this with everybody who responds who fits the basic requirements. What you're going to be looking for is you're going to be looking for their general technical skills. You're going to be looking to see what their previous work experience was, and whether, making sure that everything checks out on their profile, LinkedIn profile, or their resume, or the combination. And then lastly, you're going to look for what kinds of work experiences have they had in startups or similar type of companies within your industry. So you're really going to be asking them just kind of generally about their work experiences. I like to ask people, why are you interested in working in a startup? And then I kind of get a general overview of what their previous startup experience is. Next, you're going to conduct, I would say, 1 to 2 interviews. This is a good time to bring in other members of your organization. So if you have, say, like a contractor who you've worked a lot with, they might be able to help with a technical interview. You might have somebody who has, you might have a co-founder who can ask and really gauge for the technical and or the soft skills that this person would need to be successful in your organization. And you just really, this is where you're really trying to get the bulk of what is this person about? The last step you're going to do is you're going to have a lot of people who you've interviewed, hopefully, and you're going to make your offer. So you're going to choose the person who has the best qualification match to your position, obviously, and you're going to offer them a position. Here's an important part of this process. If you're offering a person a position and you're planning to run a background check, like a criminal background check or reference check, you need to do it after you've made an offer. So make sure that your process has implemented that. So we'll kind of go over more of that in one of the next slides. Okay, there we go. Okay, so when you're creating the job description, really what kind of helps me to start off with the position is finding similar job titles online. And so I listed a couple of different job websites that companies typically post jobs to. So Indeed or LinkedIn or Simply Hired, or just plain Google search. So it doesn't have to be necessarily super complicated. You can search job title. So like, let's say that you're looking for a JavaScript developer, you can search JavaScript developer. This is a good time if you have a general title like JavaScript developer, that you could search JavaScript developer, but then you could also search junior JavaScript developer and senior JavaScript developer. So that will kind of give you a range of what you can kind of expect if you're looking for a mid-level JavaScript developer. This is the kind of the process. This is kind of the time when you really want to sort out what are the requirements, what do you need from this job, and what is this person doing. And so this is a good thing to do, just in general, because it really helps you think about the position so that you know what kind of skills you should be interviewing for in the future. So I would say when you're actually writing it, get ready to post it, get it post ready to put it on LinkedIn or on your website. Include a paragraph describing about your company. So just kind of a general overview, just a short paragraph. List the regular duties that this person performed. I would say generally like the daily duties. Sometimes there are regular duties, of course, that are not daily. Just kind of the tasks that you would expect this person to do, the responsibilities. Then you're going to want to list only the skills that are absolutely needed to perform the position. And the reason for doing that is, some skills you might be able to, train or something like that. So obviously for a JavaScript developer, they have to know JavaScript. So it would depend on, when I'm kind of going back to this example, it would depend on the level of JavaScript that you're looking for. If you're looking for, say, a mid-level, you're looking for probably like 3 to 5 years. So you would say 3 to 5 years experience as part of the skills that are needed. And then the desired skills are kind of like this is optional, but a lot of people like to have the desired skills listed as well. So those would be to things like maybe they need a master's degree, or maybe they don't need a degree, but it would be desirable for them to have one, or secondary software skills. That kind of thing would be under the desired skills. When you're creating this job description, you want to be very careful to keep it focused on the job and not related to anything that could make you potentially liable for, that would be something that you wouldn't want to have on there. So the things that you would not want to have on there is any reference to age at all whatsoever. So some things that, like recent college grad, is an example of something that sounds generic, sounds neutral, but something like that would not be something that you want to have on there, because it could come across as you're looking for somebody who's a certain age, within a certain age group. No mention of gender unless it's no mention of gender at all. Sorry. Especially, even if it's something like a preference for an underrepresented gender, leave it off the job description. And the general rule for job descriptions would be, if you think it's inappropriate or potentially inappropriate, don't put it on there. If you have to ask somebody in human resources, can I put this on a job description? It should be avoided. So when you're reaching out to candidates, like I mentioned, your LinkedIn is a really good resource to reach out to candidates. So I say employee search tools. LinkedIn, I would say, is my top recommendation for tools that you can use that will reach the passive candidate. Sometimes people like to use dice.com. I think that's kind of going a little bit by the wayside, but it does sometimes have good technical candidates as well. In order to use LinkedIn Recruiter, which would be my recommendation to use. You would have to pay, currently the rate is $110 a month, and you can get it on a monthly basis. So, you know, you could get it for 1 to 2 months, and then you could renew it as needed. What you're going to want to do, once you've searched through, you found some candidates, now you want to reach out to them. Make sure you have a LinkedIn template that's going to talk, that you can kind of send out and modify it a little bit to each candidate that you're reaching out to. So keep it brief, include things like a basic overview of your company, a little bit about the position that you're hiring for, a very brief, not a job description. You can send that later, the job description that you completed early in the process, but just a basic overview. And also, when you're modifying it, why did you contact that person is just what you put in kind of the beginning. It's good at this point to have an idea of the salary range that you are looking to hire for. You'll kind of get, if you're not sure at this point, you will get a better idea as you continue the process. But it's good to have an idea of how common the technology is and how many people you can kind of expect to reasonably contact. As the final kind of point of reaching out to candidates, you're going to want to reach out to a lot more candidates than you think you need, probably. I would say that you're going to reach out to probably 5 to 6 times as many candidates as you're planning to interview. So you're probably planning to interview in the later stages, at least 3 candidates, I would assume, or 4 candidates. So, you know, by simple math, let's say you're interviewing 4 candidates, 4 times 5 is 20. You're going to want to reach out to about 20 people. I would say that's just as a general kind of rule of thumb. But if you're finding a really hard to fill technology, you may just reach out to maybe 10 people, and that could be okay. But you want to reach out to way more people than you think you would need for a specific position, because what you'll kind of find as you go along the process is that a lot of candidates won't respond, or you know, maybe you'll find out after you do an initial screen they're not what you're looking for, and you don't want to have to start all over again. So the interviewing process, these are just some general tips. So you'll want to create an interview questionnaire. So I would say one with technical questions and then maybe one with more soft skills. You can combine them. I know for when I do my interviews, my screens, I usually combine them. Whatever works for you, but you're going to want to have an actual, like a key. So I say a predetermined scale, but you know, what's a good answer, what's an acceptable answer, and what is a non-passing answer for certain things. When you're looking at soft skills, you're going to want to think about specific skills that will help the person be successful in your company. So as like a general rule of thumb, I would say that you could have something like, tell me about a time that you were in a stressful situation and how did you deal with it? And that would give you the person will respond. You'd be looking for a good description of a situation that you can actually understand. And you would be looking for, did they actually solve the, you know, did they come to a reasonable solution to the problem? So you can kind of, I mean, there's a lot of different things that you could be looking for. You could be looking for, like I said, leadership, or, you know, reporting to multiple bosses. It's going to apply to your specifics within your company, but there's just some kind of general questions that you can ask. You'll still want to make sure, though, that you have a grading scale for the to limit subjectivity and keep it objective. Some things that you're not going to want to ask, this goes back to kind of the job description, is do not ask about anything, kids, pregnancy, marital status, the origin of their last name, or their criminal background history. and I listed these because these are sometimes things that people talk about potentially in casual conversation that we would really want to avoid in an interview setting. If somebody brings something up, it's okay to respond in an appropriate manner. So, if somebody brings out their kid's soccer game and they obviously just told you that they had kids. So, if you attend your kids' sports, you can mention that, but get it back to the job at hand. You don't want to spend the entire interview talking about that candidate's kids. And I know that seems, that seems kind of obvious, but it does happen more often than you'd think with people as they're interviewing. It seems it has to be more formal, basically. And then you do get better results if you have multiple one-on-one interviews. That's the way to get the best results as far as getting multiple opinions and kind of making sure that, if you can even ask similar types of questions. Each person can even ask similar types of questions. So they could ask, about a stressful situation, maybe not the exact wording, but they could give their assessment on, the second representative from the company could give their assessment on this candidate. And then, let's see. So when you're making an offer, and I did mention this a little bit earlier, when you're making an offer, you want to make sure, of course, that your offer is made before you do any kind of background, a criminal background or reference check kind of background. You need to have made an offer that's contingent on the results of those things, and that's an employment legality. So please follow that as that is a hiring law. A couple of just brief points about making an offer that I would like to include is it's general best practices to notify other candidates once an offer is accepted. So you have your top candidate, he or she accepts that offer, and now you might want to consider that person again. So if you want to consider that person again, good to reach out to them and say, I appreciate that you interviewed with us. We decided to hire a candidate who had, this and this qualities. And, we'd like to consider you in the future. And the reason why I say that this is a good best practice is because a lot of companies don't do this, and it kind of leaves a bad taste in a candidate's mouth if they've interviewed and gone through the entire process and then they're not even given a follow-up. So the general, I would say the general idea that it's bad to give any kind of feedback is wrong, because you can give feedback. You just have to be careful about what you say and keep it exactly related to the position on hand. So if a rejected candidate asks you for feedback, or if you are you're following up with the candidates, I usually just tell all the candidates straight out who didn't get hired the reason why the person that was hired was a better fit, and not just their better fit, but why. So keep it brief and keep it related to the position. So for example, for a marketing role, the candidate who was selected had more experience using Adobe and Google Analytics. So I'm keeping it general, but I'm also helping to guide the candidate, because as they're interviewing for similar roles, they might need to consider that they need more experience with Adobe and Google Analytics. So I am being a a responsible employer, and I'm leaving a good impression with the candidates that I'm interviewing, but at the same time, I'm also giving them some things that they can decide to work on if they so choose. So that's really, I guess, my presentation. If there's any questions, or anybody wants to come on screen to ask a specific question related to their organization, you're more than welcome to. You can drop your comments in the comment box, and I should get them. And I'm happy to answer any of the questions. I think there's going to be a little bit of a delay before I'll actually get to see all the questions. So I'm just going to go a little bit back through some of my slides and just review them if there are no questions at this time, and I'll just kind of keep an eye out for questions that may come up. So, oops. So what, oopsies. Here's my slides. And I apologize, I did not mean to do that, but so I did mention at one time that it's best to know the salary rate that you want to offer. So I just wanted to touch briefly on that in the last couple minutes that I have. So when you're looking at salary, there's going to be a general salary range for just software developers in general. So for say an entry level, I would call it a junior developer, it's typically going to be 70,000 or less, unless it's some kind of very unique technology. Then you're going to be looking at, I would say 80 to 110 is a mid-level developer, and then over 110 is maybe as a senior developer, and it's really going to depend on the technology. So I just wanted to give you just a general idea of kind of a salary range. But what I would say as far as the salary range goes is, as you're searching through the job descriptions, when you're trying to make your job description, this is a really good time to also do a salary search. And you can easily type in salary for a junior developer, junior JavaScript developer. I do see I have a couple of questions. So I have a, oopsies. Want to get to these questions if I can. So I have a question from, or comment from Helen. It's very nice of you to telling the candidates the reason, then they know where the gap is and how to do better. Thank you, Helen. I do appreciate that as a recruiter, and also as I've been an interviewee myself. Another question is, would a rubric work better for providing feedback? So I'm going to make a guess that this is about, you already have a rubric, you've already interviewed that candidate, and you'd like to give them some feedback from your rubric. That's fine. I mean, you could give them an entire rubric at different points. I think that you probably don't want to go into that much detail, because then you're going to have a lot more kind of questions on the interview, and you might unintentionally reveal more than you want to. But I think that having that rubric and referring back to it and saying these are the areas that the candidate could have improved on are definitely is definitely a good idea. So you probably don't need the entire rubric, but referring to that should be fine. And the last question, I hope I have time to answer this, is how have you seen, from James, have you seen COVID affect hiring, especially for startups? And yes, we have seen COVID affect hiring. I would say that it's really gone from it's at first nobody was hiring, but a lot of tech startups and marketing startups have actually turned their hiring around, and a lot of people are hiring, especially for any kind of technology, because we need technology even more so now that we are that we're at home. So yes, I have seen COVID affect hiring. I would say now it's more on the positive upspin, for a lot of tech startups are hiring in mass numbers and are growing rapidly because they do have the opportunity now. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen as my time is up. And if you are interested in, if you have any questions or you're interested in connecting, I do have my LinkedIn at the bottom of my screen. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you have.